Now we are going to continue our afternoon session with the third panel discussion of today. So, panel actors are universities and Launchpads as key drivers of a startup ecosystem. The moderator is Imre Hild. I would kindly ask Imre to come up on stage, and I need Viktor Borbély from Budapest University of Technology and Economics, József Gyarmati from Future Founders, Craig Johnson from MOME Innovation Center, László Korányi from MIT Venture Lab, Dr. Andrea Kozma as well, Milos Milicevic from VC Leaders, and Tamás Müller from POSI. Thank you, and have a wonderful discussion.
Thank you, guys. In the interest of time, I decided to shut up and leave the floor for the participants of the panel. So, just to give the opportunity for a short introduction for everyone, why don't we start with Andrea, please?
Hello everyone, my name is Andrea Kozma and I'm currently the Chief Portfolio Officer and the head of the Launchpad program at START. And before that, for 7 years, I was leading a university incubator program at Central European University.
Thank you. Hi everyone, my name is Craig Johnson. I'm actually from South Africa, but it still surprises me how I ended up in this strange land 6 years ago. But my role here is actually I lead a design-driven incubation program at the Moholy Nagy University of Art and Design. Before that, I'm a chartered accountant by background, but I've also dabbled in from politics to ethics and even teaching English. So I consider myself a bit of a generalist. So yes, happy to be here.
Thank you, Tamás.
Hello, everybody. I'm a serious entrepreneur, startup geeks, and dinosaurs of this ecosystem, as I speaking well. Actually, I have a crazy idea 10 years ago and found a women startup competition global initiatives. And now I'm the co-founder of Posi.io. It's a free open space for startups. That's why I'm here.
Hi, Imre. Thanks for having me here. I'm Joseph from Future Founders Club, and which is a cross-university pre-incubator program where we are looking for the most outstanding talents and champions of this region.
My name is László Korányi. My affiliations are not completely correct. Actually, currently I am working as an advisor at the Hungarian Ministry of Culture and Innovation in the innovation part, and also at the NRDI, the Hungarian Research Development and Innovation Office. So I'm advisor and running some projects there. I had some affiliation. I have some affiliation to HSUP and also MIT, but not Venture Lab, or Venture Mentoring Service. But the rest is okay. And I've been in the first 2/3 of my life, I have been in business and software entrepreneur, and then I changed to this governmental and university line more recently. Thank you.
And your university involvement is partly the HSUP monitoring
and
management.
also at Óbuda University. So I have, but it's too long. And
you have too many hats.
If Tamás said he's a dinosaur, then I don't know what can I say about myself, but anyhow, that's it.
All right, Milos?
Hello, Milos. I've already, I think, introduced myself without introducing university background. So I'm also a university person. This year, I was approached by Corvinus University to develop their entrepreneurship programs and lead entrepreneurship. At the university, it was something I never wanted to do, but I decided to do, and I found very challenging and rewarding. So I'm here on behalf of university as a professor, full-time professor of Corvinus University.
Great. And as for myself, Óbuda Uni Venture Capital, so it's the Óbuda University Venture Capital Fund and Venture Studio. So we work with either university-based startups and entrepreneurs or other startups who would come to the university for some kind of cooperation. And if they need capital, then we can provide that too. So, the title of our panel is Universities and Launchpads as Key Drivers of a Startup Ecosystem. And looking at you all, we all understand launchpads a little bit differently. You know, we don't always do the same thing. The fundamental question, and this is kind of the provocative question, are these university launchpads really key drivers? Can they be key drivers? And what makes them key drivers of the startup ecosystem? Because what I'm sensing very often is that there is this kind of stereotypical thought about startups that they have to be dominated by very young people who are coming up with really great ideas. But is it really happening? And when it is happening, is a is a university launchpad the right way to develop it? So I really would like to have your thoughts on this. What are the common themes and what are the differing thoughts in our heads? Andrea or Yoti?
Well, I can talk about the experience that we had when we launched the CEU Innovations Lab. The original idea to have an incubator in the business school started in 2011. And there was a classroom converted, which was supposed to be the incubator. The program didn't really take off, although there was the intention top down to have one. And a couple of years later, after some entrepreneurship programs have been introduced in the curriculum, suddenly, students started to become interested and asking for why there is no actually program. So when it started as a bottom-up grassroots kind of initiative, that's when it really took part. Started up. So I think what is important is that somehow we need to get the students to be interested in entrepreneurship and give them the opportunity to meet with the idea that entrepreneurship is a potential career choice for them. And this is really the first step. So if it comes from the students, things will start happening.
Yotzi?
Yeah, thanks, Imre. So I totally connect to Andrea's thoughts. The role of a university launchpad is to fulfill the place where the gap between the ecosystem and the newcomers. So if you look at the ecosystem as a pipeline, there definitely need some investable companies or startuppers or founders who can, that's what we call the newcomers. And angel investors needs to have these founders on board. Universities mostly don't deliver these champions with the right knowledge about the startup era, and that's why we need the launchpads to give this mentorship and this education.
Okay, so I think the biggest problem at the moment is the speed. You imagine the founders who hire speed, running, flying, sexy, trendy sugar glider, if you know, the Cukor Mókus. And then the other side is the university, who is 3 years old program and very slowly decision making. It's not, there is not a matchmaking without any incubator program in there. And the other side, it's very important to give possibility to startuppers to the network. Nobody going to the university at the moment, so some people is going, but mostly it's not. And how can we imagine to these people create some networking, find a co-founder or partners in there? If doesn't visiting to the university lectures. So it's very huge problem now. So we have to give some networking possibilities to meeting online, cooperate each others, and go abroad and get a connection with the other people also.
All right, I start to see a trend here, Greg, and then it's you, Lotzi.
Yeah, I just want to circle back to your question. Can they be key drivers? I think the obvious question is yes. I think there's a lot of fresh ideas that do come from young people, but of course, most of the time that they lack the support that they need to actually develop these ideas in a structured way. So I think that is missing. And of course, some universities are in a better position than others, coming from the likes of business schools, for example. But what I find at an art and design university, the guys have lots of ideas, but they haven't got that business mindset, which is a very different way of approaching problem solving. And I think that is also, when you combine these two together, then there is that potential you can unlock to be a key driver and a pipeline to the startup ecosystem.
Lottie?
Okay, well, we've been talking here about primarily about students, and obviously students are the raison d'être of university, so that's why university is a university. But there are other groups of people who are very important at the university, like researchers and alumni. And these two groups have different roles and can have a very important impact on how innovation and startups will come out of universities. There is now in Hungary one government program which is called the Proof of Concept for University. This is for university researchers to be able to make the validation of their research ideas from a business and from a technological point of view. We know that the research is so far from any investable item that investors don't even look at it because it's that far. But these vehicles, these instruments may help to close that gap, and we have started that already like 3 years ago, almost 4, and the first results are quite good. So we are measuring the results, and we are going to continue this program. So this is for the researchers, and also it is very important that in these projects students should be involved. PhD students and ordinary students, because a researcher usually likes to be a researcher and not an entrepreneur. But if you can combine the two, then this gives a very strong combination. About alumni, I just mentioned that the MIT should read VMS, Venture Mentoring Service. This is based at the MIT primarily on alumni. So they involve alumni in helping the university startups and helping the university spin-offs to be successful. So it's important not to forget about these two groups of people at universities. And also, I would say, education and entrepreneurial preparation is what is really important. So I think that's a misconception that all the startups and great innovations would come from students. If we look at the average age of the successful startups, this is well above 30, closer to 40 than to 20.
So you're saying that the university launchpads are not as strong of a driver as we assume?
Well, it depends what we expect from that. So if we expect, like, Hungarian Startup University Program, it's also mentioned.
Is it a success?
Under my name, and if we think that this will launch hundreds of startups, then this will not happen. If we look at it as a good tool to educate students, to bring entrepreneurship closer to students, then this is an excellent and wonderful tool. And it can happen. So we have to be ready for the situation where actually something, a startup, comes out of it. So we have to be prepared for that. But if we set the goal, okay, this will create hundreds of startups, then we are misleading ourselves. So yeah, this is a little bit more complicated. And also, like, just one question to the audience. What do you think, what is the proportion of patents coming out of universities and coming out in Hungary, coming from individual inventors. Equal all the universities in Hungary and all the inventors in Hungary. 10%, which is the 10%? Yeah, not far, yeah. Okay, so yeah, it's something like 20, but 20%. And then there are the company ones. But yeah, so sometimes we
So what are you saying with this?
mislead ourselves. Yeah.
Milos, how about your take? I mean, this is like being the sixth on the panel. It's like maybe not too.
And I'm a person representing a university. It is very difficult to sort of get the right estimate of success factors. We should be very clear as to what is missing in this ecosystem, and that is nurturing connectivity, connections across the ecosystem. And I'm not only talking about mentors and students, and I'm not talking specific stakeholders, but in general, nurturing these kind of connections increases the resilience of entrepreneurs and their ambitions in general, without kind of highlighting any specific factor, because the processes are so complex.
All right, I'm very happy actually by these answers, because the common theme is that you were not talking about universities. I don't know if you realized. You were talking about students, which is obvious to all of us who are actually doing it, but 3 years ago or 5 years ago, if we had the same panel, everybody would be talking about budgets, that the university is spending, how much money the university is actually trying to, involve more and more students. And I think it's a very, very good shake that we are all focusing on the right people, the students or the researchers, for that matter. Actually, I think that, if I can add my 2 pennies to this discussion, what we see at, for example, at the university, at Óbuda, is that many students and many researchers don't know the university. They don't know what the structure is and who they could talk to, let alone knowing what Launchpad is, and let alone even that there is an ecosystem beyond that. So there is a lot of room for improvement in this regard. Now, something that I'm sensing that, for example, as Tal was talking about fintech, and the fintech industry, obviously, the banking industry, which is being revolutionized by some of these fintech companies. Similar thing happened to the telco industry, right? That there were the big, gigantic companies, and then the small startups started to kind of stir things up. Isn't the same thing, or the automotive industry, isn't the same thing happening, or should be happening to universities? And if you look at it internationally, some things are happening in this direction. Universities are becoming more and more practical. They involve a lot more practitioners, people who are actually coming from the industry, and many industry cooperations are coming to life. Where do you see this trend going in Hungary? Do you see any positive movement in this regard? Are they focusing on this, or whatever else they are focusing? Is that the right thing, in your opinion? I'm actually driving at like how the industry, the university industry, should change in order to meet the needs of the ecosystem.
Well, I think the universities are changing. There is this new concept of the entrepreneurial university or engaged university, which means that universities are taking a much bigger role in terms of responding to what is happening in the world. So rather than just focusing on research, which has happened in the last 30, 40 years, more engaged in contributing to the real life. And in terms of, and it has many implications, like, designing programs that responding better to the employment market, and also engaging in more practical platforms. What a Launchpad program at a university incubator program could be, which is also a surface between the challenge is the employment market and the university. And also I see a changing trend in terms of how universities measure their own success. Recently, it is still kind of very much driven by research ranking. So kind of the students are falling behind in terms of why the university exists. And we see research showing how universities rank themselves in terms of producing successful startups, even unicorns, so the measurement is changing. I don't see that happening in Hungary, but if we look at global trends, it's clearly changing.
Yeah, I can just add that they talk about universities being fit for purpose, right? So when students graduate, they need to somehow find a way to add value to society and value to the world. Starting a business is one way, right? So I think it's within society's interest to cultivate these sort of entrepreneurs that can go on to hire people and really drive the economy and the GDP. But yes, I do see this collaboration somehow being unavoidable between industry and university, because at the end of the day, we're trying to get them to prepare them for the world. And yes, there is courses that are industry-led. There is hackathons that come with industry problems. And this sort of mindset is to really solve problems that matter, that are not just theoretical, but are actually real life, because that's how you prepare the next generation. So I see this inevitable linkage getting stronger. But yes, just to reiterate what Andrea said, is that yes, there is this top-down pressure to be self-sustainable, right, entrepreneurial-led, and not sort of dependent on national budget for university expenditure. So I think it's a nice little nudge to be more careful with how we spend the money, but also how we add value.
Okay, as I see, it's more and more university in Hungary realize the university not an institute, a building, that is a community and some kind of brand in your LinkedIn profile, because it's very important to get a job or step forward and get a connection to the similar alumni and get a business with them. So that it's very important to the networking part. That's why we push strong to create some open free platform to startups and involve to the universities and students into that platform.
My quick answer is that yes, there is a change, but how I see is that, of course, because it's a university, it's running a marathon, so it has to be sustainable on a long term. But for innovation, we need to have quick wins. So, and for the quick wins, we must have sprints, and that's where the Launchpads can come in the picture.
Yeah, I would like just to point to another aspect is now about students, that there is a very strong interest among students for learning about entrepreneurship, learning about how to build companies, startups, etc., even without any specific or very strong incentives. At the Hungarian Innovation Agency and Ministry, there was a dispute regarding the Hungarian Startup University program, where actually students were attracted to this program by offering them a huge, by Hungarian standards of course, a huge fellowship and also like a lot of credits. And one way of thinking was that without this, the students wouldn't be interested in such programs. There were 4,000 students enrolled the year before. Now we have significantly reduced the incentives. 1/3 of the fellowship is offered, and the number of credits is also reduced. And look at that, more students enrolled in the program than in any previous year. So which shows that you don't have to buy the goodwill or the pocket of the student if you offer something which is interesting. And now we are focusing on making it even more interesting to rewrite the complete curriculum, and also focusing on the very few who can make it to a startup, and giving a lot of interesting knowledge and experience to those who are not going to make it into a startup. So it shows that a lot of people think that students are much worse than they actually are. And this was a very positive experience in the last month or so.
That's really positive, for sure. Milos, what do you think?
Thank you. Well, I think there is a geography of innovation in Europe, specifically very prominent in Western Europe, where there are clusters of innovation. Both the entrepreneurial activity and capital market activity tends to aggregate in specific centers. For instance, we have a Munich cluster, technology cluster. We have a Berlin technology cluster, very strong, industry-specific, activity-specific clusters. Copenhagen, I can list 20 of them in Western Europe. Behind every cluster, there is, in 90% of cases, so I think 15% of cases, 16, there is actually one single university. Like Munich School of Technology, Berlin Technology University. Of course, we should be careful when we say this, because universities are one of least flexible, most traditional forms of organization. So to get something passed through university takes weeks, months. They cannot respond to market changes. They cannot respond to changes in, in terms of product development cycles, faster time to market schedules and so on. So we cannot say that universities are responsible for creating these clusters, but their role in clusters is by far the greatest.
Okay, so you said a lot of unattractive things about universities, which I think is completely true. Now, yet we are talking about startups. We are talking about companies that are facing the market and want to raise funds. And those of you who've been around in the VC industry know that when VCs hear about, okay, university-based startup, so the university has, share of the IP. I don't want to deal with that. It's going to be complicated, difficult. Now, over the years, there were some changes obviously in the treatment of the IP. Now, I'm looking for your views on how are university-based startups viewed by, let's say, Hungarian VCs or local VCs in the regional sense? What are the major challenges, and what are some of the solutions, how you solve these challenges when you try to get your startups from these launchpads to get them funded? How much can you help them, and what are the tricks that these startups can actually use to eliminate a potentially negative, tag of, IP stuck in the university, that kind of situation? Any feedback on that?
Okay, one concrete sample. There was a very promising startups there is in the market, and came from university spin-off research program, and we worried about that, how much money will be to buy out the IPs, and that's we writing to the letter to the university. Okay, we need, or a startup need 100 euros to step into the artist just to get some patents for that, and said it's okay. They don't want to pay 100 euros, just give away to all of the spin-offs. So it's that is actual to the situation, because the university don't want to working with the problems to solve it, pay out a little money. So that is, but the startups now, it's very successful. So the university lost a lot of money for that's
Sure.
why.
Andre, any lessons learned in dealing with VCs?
Well, I think there are two types of startups that could come out of the university. One is the a research spin-off, and that's a completely different animal from, student-led initiative, obviously, and the problems are again different. I agree with Lotzi that students are not necessarily the right age for a successful startups. I think at the universities, mostly the role of the university and the Launchpad programs is more like to expose the students to entrepreneurship and engage the alumni network, and then later in their life they will develop something. And sometimes miracle happens, and there are some students who create a good startup that actually makes it on the market, but these are the exceptions. In terms of research, I think it's really crucial that for the university it should matter that research is actually commercialized, and there should be a mechanism in place how we commercialize, because otherwise that's what happens, that there is no structure how we do that. There's no licensing scheme. Should the university remain the IP holder or be a part of the startup? And because of the very traditional structure of the university, it just takes too long for a startup to actually take off. So it's the structures.
Thank you. Well, this is what happens when we have 6 people on the panel, and we have only a limited amount of time. So we kind of ran out of time, and Kada is already, dancing the impatience dance, on the right. Just to add to what Andreas said, and it's a very positive addition. 2 of my students from Corvinus University, actually, both of them were international students. One of them from India. He actually, after the course, a year and a half after the course, he built one of the most successful recycling companies in India, and the other one became managing director at Techstars a year and a half also after the course. So there are some positive examples, so I like to share that. And they both started at Corvinus, so that's, I guess, the Corvinus can mark it. I definitely do. So thank you all. And one more thing I promised to Lotzi is that this location, this beautiful location that we have here at the Museum of Ethnography is due to the help of Laszlo Bodi, who is the Deputy State Secretary of Innovation. And without him, we couldn't have this location. So I would like to take the opportunity to thank him and thank you for your support of the ecosystem so that this location, this venue became available. So thank you for that. And thank you for listening to us.
Okay, Zena.